Well, hello there, and greetings from Brazil. I've been in Brazil all week, and it's been an amazing time. Lance Wallnow's been here, and Stacey Campbell, and Arlene Westerhoff, and many others from all around the world. And there's been all kinds of economic leaders who joined in the summit earlier this week. And now we're in a conference, and so I'm getting ready to go into a meeting in a few moments, so I won't share too long with you. But today in the session we were talking about Reformation, because transformation is really on the Lord's heart right now, talking about the transformation of nations, and that we are looking to see God move on leaders and breathe on his people to bring forth new leaders in this hour who will conquer media and business and education and entertainment and government and all those areas of influence in society. Because it's not just about soul winning, bringing souls into the kingdom, although that is always a priority on God's heart, but we want to see the kingdom come. We want to see the kingdom established in the nations, and to do that we need to have a voice in the world. And we were talking about the whole education system, of course, is a target that we need to really bring before the church right now to pray into, but also to invade that mountain of influence. Because if the children are made by law to go into school and learn things that are concepts and values that are contrary to the Bible, we're going to be in trouble, because that whole next generation, their mind is going to be molded towards things that are not godly. And so as a man thinks, so is he. And so we really need to step up. I mean, years ago, of course, when the education system was very new in the nations, it was mainly the church that founded it. Even the Ivy League universities were founded by Christians, but everything is so far away from that now. So we cannot neglect, in fact, we have neglected that mountain. So we have to really do something about that now. And of course, government, business, everything's the same. We need reformers to be raised up in this hour. And many of you that are watching this video, I know that God's got his hand on you to be a reformer and to rise up in this hour to say yes to the call, because it's going to be powerful, and God will give you the influence to change nations, to change the way people think, to drive out corruption, all those things. So I just want to share just for a few moments, because the ride's going to pick me up shortly. But I want to share three attributes, and there's many attributes, but three attributes of a reformer that I shared here this morning in the conference. And the first one is servanthood. And Jesus was the greatest reformer of all, and he said, the greatest in the kingdom, and he was speaking of himself, but the greatest in the kingdom is the servant of all. And in other words, he was saying our motivation for whatever we do has to be servanthood. So if we are even on the business mountain and given opportunity to make a lot of profit, whatever, the motivation for that needs to be able to serve the Lord in expanding his goodness, serving people, doing better for people, so that for everyone it's a win-win. If we are called to government, it has to be not for a lust for power, of course, or for the favor of the people alone, or just to be able to make the decisions you want to make. But it's got to be in your heart. I'm placed here to be able to serve not only God's purposes in this nation, but serve even coming generations by the decisions that are made here and by what I put my hand to. And that we would always want to see, of course, in our servanthood, like Jesus said, or it says in the Psalms rather, that the Lord takes those who are in the dung heap and sets them amongst the princes of the earth. So you can see the way that he serves. He brings us from nothing into something. And so when we are graced with blessing, that is what we need to do for others as well. The second one, the second attribute of a reformer is that they are dreamers. And if we're going to make change in culture, we have to start dreaming, looking beyond the box, looking beyond what is there, because it is so easy to look at all the hardships, all the hard stuff, all the negative stuff, and get stuck in that. But a true reformer will dream the solutions. They will dream beyond that, and their heart will be stirred to do things in God that maybe look impossible to the natural. But God wants to, set people into their place. And I really wonder sometimes if David, when he was in the field, if he used to dream about being the king of Israel. Did he dream about that? And in a way, I think he did, because dreams are partnerships with God. As we worship him, he gives us dreams. He starts to speak into our life, and then we can partner with him. And some of you that are watching, you're afraid to dream because you've dreamt before, and it says hope deferred makes the heart sick. So I think it's easier for me not to dream, but I want you to rekindle dreaming, because you need to dream. You need to dream in order to change situations. So you could be in even a personal situation right now that looks horrific, but can you dream your way through it? Can you see the potential of what God wants to do in your personal life in that area, and dream big and hold on to it? Because if you can dream for yourself, then you can dream beyond yourself too, and you can see culture changed. And I know that one of my dreams was to see modern day slavery annihilated, and we just started dreaming about the possibility of that and started putting our hands to it. And God opened up the doors and opened up opportunities for us to annihilate certain situations that were going on. So don't be afraid to dream, because reformers dream. One of our staff members, Jonathan Williams, just recently, in fact, he starts in his position in the White House next week, but he had a dream for a couple of years or so that he saw himself in the White House as a political photographer and even the director of photography. And so he started speaking, decreeing into that dream every day for 2 years, and actually got hired on into the vice president's office of the White House and starts next week. But he didn't just land there. It started with a dream. And he had no education. He had no formal education in the area of photography. He definitely, when he started using a camera, definitely displayed a gift. He's very gifted. But God has made room for him, because he was daring to dream. He said, I want to record American history as it happens. I want to be able to capture that. And so being in the White House too, he has influence. So he's dreaming about how he can influence the nation through his position there. So dream big. Whatever your situation is now, dream for yourself, but then look at the bigger picture and dream about like what these days are going to look like as the church arises into its place, because God will answer our dream. And try to avoid embracing any kind of negativity, because things are bad out there. You don't need to be prophetic to see how bad things are, but you need the Lord to give you a dream to see beyond it and to see the solution beyond that. And then the third attribute of a reformer that I want to share with you is that we need to be ethical. And I've shared this in another video, but everyone, even unsaved people in the world, want, let's say, a government, for example, that is moral and upright and honest and not corrupt. No one says, I would love to live inside of an environment of corruption. I would love to do a business deal with someone I can't trust, or with someone who's going to exploit me or something like that. I mean, it's just unheard of. And yet we see so many issues in the world, so much darkness in the world, including, immorality and lack of integrity and honesty. And I think I shared in another video with you that that we had a leader share just the other day about someone who had run for the presidential office in an African nation. And they were talking to them and they said, please do not send any more evangelists into our nation, because we already have 85% of the people claim to be born again in our nation. We need discipleship, because this nation is so corrupt that there is gross wickedness everywhere you look, in the church and outside the church, and nothing is changing that. Now, when transformation comes, when reformation comes, wickedness will go. But it takes reformers to take a stand and to rebuild the structures, to have a voice. In fact, that's one of the things that's very important in this hour, is that we raise our voice in this hour, because a lot of times the reason there is no change is because we've been too quiet. we might talk about the issue, we might be aware of it, we might even grieve over it, and it's good to grieve over an issue like that. But we need a voice to raise up the truth. I had someone at the lunch table today. They were actually joking about it, but they said, I love corruption, and I just with a loud voice said, I do not. And of course, I knew he was joking, but it was just like, we need to take that kind of stand when people aren't joking. Right? We need to be able to have a voice. And I know even in the movie industry, which is molding a lot of the next generation's mindsets and is lowering the bar for the way that we live. Sometimes you'll watch, try to watch a movie, and every third sentence there's the F word, right? Or there's immoral scenes and that. And we need to cleanse our vision from that and set ourselves apart for watching those things that are good. But also in business dealings, we need to be honest, and with our finances, we need to be honest, and we need to do away with lying and all kinds of other deception. Because if we can cleanse that in the body and become ethical believers, which we should naturally be, then we can change a corrupt system. But we cannot change a corrupt system if we are corrupt ourselves. And so I believe God's going to be putting his hand on that in this next hour. And I believe that we're going to see a people that just are longing to be holy in their behavior as well as in their standing with God. And I'm just so excited about it because I'm already starting to hear it. People are tired of all the compromise and the junk and the worldly stuff that's out there. And the whole world is actually looking for someone who will be different, who will stand and who will not compromise in this hour. So if we're going to be reformers, we need to be ethical, we need to be moral. And so God is raising up a company so that when we get to the tops of the mountains of influence, we are not going to be disqualified. We are not going to lead that realm of influence into evil, because every time we sin, this is, heavy. Sometimes people don't realize this, but every time you sin, you are actually giving the devil a legal right. Romans 6:16 says that to whoever you submit yourself to, that's whose slave you become. In other words, you become owned by that one. And it says, if you submit to righteousness, then of course you are under the rule of righteousness. But it says, but if you sin, then you become a slave of that. So the enemy takes legal right and he starts to oppress. He has every right to go and start working through people who are given over to sin. And that's how whole nations get corrupt. And as the church goes, so goes the nation. So we actually need to be reformers in the church before we can be reformers through the church. We need to have a Christ-like behavior amongst us and a purging of the Lord so that we can be the reformers that God wants us to be and go and bring in the harvest, go preach the gospel and transform nations. Because in Mark, we see the Great Commission to go out and preach the gospel to every creature, right? So we need to do that and we need to bring in that harvest. But in Matthew 28, we are commissioned to disciple nations. So both are important. We're going to have the revivalists and we're going to have the reformers rise up and work together in this hour. It is going to be amazing. And God wants you to give your yes to the attributes of a reformer and say, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I will walk as a servant. I will make servanthood my greatest motivation. I embrace the cross and live for you and for your purposes and to serve others before myself. And I will be a dreamer and I will be ethical and moral. I will, because of who you made me to be. I am called to reform. Okay? So God bless you. And I just want to encourage you, if you aren't on my YouTube channel yet, I do, a number of different, I think, strategic teachings, and I'll put meetings up there that I think that would help you. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's just Patricia King, and keep in touch so I can feed you. I'd love to feed you spiritually. Be awesome. And so anyways, I'm on my way to a meeting right now, so I've got to run out the door. But it's been awesome sharing this with you, and I just invite you to embrace what God is offering to you in this hour, because he's looking for world changers and he's looking for history makers. And so he's looking right at you right now.